Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 74 in the book of Genesis. Yesterday, we followed Abraham, and he was a great example yesterday of faith with boots on and swords drawn. And he defeated this big army that came all the way from Mesopotamia. It's actually before the Assyrian Empire, but they're all the kingdoms of Assyria, marched 2,000 miles. Four kings started it. They conquered up to 11 armies, and then they became like 16 armies. And we found Abraham in this unbearable, unreasonable, impossible task and having to have faith. He found himself in a situation that only God could deliver him from. So he gets this military victory, Abram does, from being a non-military man. He divided his inferior forces, and that somehow turns in God's economy into superior effectiveness. Then he brings back all these possessions. He also brings back his nephew Lot, and he sort of wins this windfall. And we find out today what he does. So today's title is Abram Gives Back. He runs into this frankly strange biblical creature. We'll get to him in a second, a person, and he emphasizes his place in the big picture, the big hierarchy. Where does Abraham fall in the big hierarchy? And we find out from this character Melchizedek that God has delivered your enemies into your hand, and and Abraham is then going to give a tenth of his blessing to this representative of this big God. So here we are. This is Genesis chapter 14, and we're going to start in verse 17. So this is talking about Abraham being blessed by Melchizedek. After his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the valley of Shiva, that is the king's valley. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. So we have the king of Sodom and the king of Salem, who's Melchizedek. So Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed them and said, "Blessed be Abraham by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." And Abram gave him, Melchizedek, a tenth of everything. And the king of Sodom, one of the kings he rescues, said to Abraham, "Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself." But Abraham said to the king of Sodom, "I have lifted my hand to the Lord. I've made a vow to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that which I would not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, I've made Abram rich. I will take nothing but what the young man hath eaten, and the share of the men who went with me. Let Aner," these are the other kings that were with Sodom, "Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre take their share." Okay, so who is Melchizedek? He's a little known in the Old Testament. He's explained in the New Testament in Hebrews chapter 7. He's this priest and king of Jerusalem. So he's both two offices of Israel that generally were separated, except for Jesus, who fulfills that. And the point of this, one of the points of the story, is he's superior to Abraham. We find that in the story, Abraham gives this guy as the representative of the Lord. He gives a tenth to Melchizedek as representative of the Lord. And kind of the argument is the temptation in the New Testament was for people to be like worshiping the old patriarchs. And the point is, no, Jesus is superior to the angels and the priests and the patriarchs. And they reference this story where Abram gives a tenth to Melchizedek. So he's under Melchizedek, if you will. So Melchizedek prefigures Christ and his actions. Okay, so he meets Melchizedek and is blessed by Melchizedek, and he ends up giving Melchizedek a tithe, a tenth, which is an Old Testament quantifiable measure of gratitude and tribute. And it's acknowledgement to this king and of the king and priest of Salem. Then he also meets this king who he has rescued, which is the king of Sodom. And the king of Sodom says, "Hey, can I have my people back?" And Abraham has made a vow to the Lord, has lifted his hand to the Lord, and basically he says, look, I am not in this for the money or the riches. I have lifted my hand to the Lord, and I've made a promise about something. So he makes an earnest effort, So, the Lord knows that we are fail. Every generation has proven that in biblical times. We've done a few generations here now since Adam and Eve and Noah. And you just have to read the paper today. The Lord knows that we are frail. That's one of the points. And God is not opposed to effort and saying, hey, I am setting my heart towards this. God is not opposed to effort. What he is opposed to is earning. So this act where Abraham raises his hand to the Lord, makes a promise to the Lord, and says, hey, I'm not going to profit by a single thread, not a sandal strap. Not basically says, not a penny. I'm not going to take a penny from you. I'm marching using this gift of faith that the Lord has given me. Abraham is marching with faith towards being a great nation. Lots of people, lots of descendants, and yes, land. So no one can say, and Abraham makes it clear, nobody can say that I'm in this for the money. And he draws this line way before that which is due him. I've saved you, Mr. Sodom King, all your people, all your stuff, and you're probably going to have your eyes gouged out when you got over there past Babylon. But now you have a restored kingdom. And a guy, now Abraham, who you kind of owe everything, and that requests you nothing except for the expenses of the trip. So let's make some conclusions here today. So first, let's talk about a tithe, this Old Testament quantifiable measure of gratitude and tribute and acknowledgement. First thing is, are you giving? Are you acknowledging the Lord tangibly? Are we giving a sacrifice first of our thoughts, our songs, our words, our prayer, our service, and yes, with a portion of our goods, with our money? So are you giving to your church? Are we giving to who? Are you giving to the Humane Society, the Red Cross, the Nature Conservancy, the homeless guy in the street? All that is well and good, but don't give a penny until you fulfill your big obligations, which is to give to the church. Read 2 Corinthians chapter 8 and 9 if you want to go beyond the tithe. And Abraham here gives back, and it asks the question of us, what is due from us? Sacrifice of praise for sure, sacrifice of heart, submission, yielding, will, and yes, wallet. So Abraham gives back, and we must give beyond the tithe as well. Maybe like Abraham, we'll lift our hands to the Lord in a vow. Maybe that's for money. Maybe that's to an attitude. Today is the day for more vows, not less. Let's give our tithes and let's give our vows to the Lord. Thank you for listening.